Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the upcoming pattern. Both of those storms we need to talk about. The East Coast one that's looking a little tiny bit more major, but still pretty minor to say the least. And then also that one in the central United States that will be a lot more major. We have some updates for that one as well. Anyways, before I get into this video, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, when do you think our next storm after these ones are said and done will be? When is the next date you're watching for a potential storm signal in the United States? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and first things first, we can tell that there is one major storm going on in the United States, or I guess more major than the rest, and then really there's not a lot else going on. I'm trying to see if there's anything else to note of. I guess there's some snow showers and rain showers here for New England, but outside of that, it doesn't look like there is really much of anything. Now, this is a pretty broad system, so we're going to have to zoom into a couple of different places, so let's just take a look first off at this northwestern extent of this one. We can see that the general flow in this region is kind of towards the southeast here. This is also moving with some cold air alongside it. We do have a lot of snow showers here for some of the northern Rockies, as you can see, and some of those are heavier than others. I mean, near Great Falls there, that area there, probably seeing quite a bit of accumulation taking place, and then south of Billings as well, which is a little bit more mountainous for certain spots. That's definitely accumulating as well. So that's two of some of the more major snowfall regions we have at this point. Now, as we move more towards the upper Midwest, this is kind of inside of the storm, and really a lot of the precipitation is to your south, west, and east, but we do have these showers kind of just moving through for areas of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. We do see that a lot of this there is in the form of snow near Fargo and even Minneapolis there as well. And that area is probably accumulating possibly a dusting, if anything, but really it is lighter, and we don't have as widespread of snowfall for that region. Now, as we just shift this a little bit further south, we can see we do have some mixed and mostly rain showers, in my opinion, for a lot of these regions. It was around mostly for Nebraska and Kansas, but you can see that area has really dissipated over the last few hours. And mostly we have to draw our attention to this rain area here, where we've had most of the action. Maybe, pretty heavy showers here along this cold front, I would say, maybe even close to thunderstorms, but I don't see any lightning strikes coming through. That does look a little bit intense there in those yellows. We can tell there is some heavier precipitation taking place there for portions of Missouri, Illinois, and even Indiana there as well along that cold front. So we're going to be watching for that potential flooding, as there is very heavy rainfall in this pocket for sure. So areas like Kansas City, Quincy, better yet, St. Louis there, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Chicago, it's just passed through. We're going to be watching these regions closely, and eventually Columbus, Louisville, Springfield, Poplar Bluff, areas like that we're going to be watching later on with this cold front. Now, there is a main area of snowfall here, and it's mostly for Michigan. Here, we did have that mixing in for Chicago overnight, but that eventually came to a close. We do see the Upper Peninsula is seeing snowfall for about the third day in a row, but mostly here, the Lower Peninsula, this is where a lot of that snowfall is taking place. I'm going to zoom in, actually, where we can see the counties and some more cities. Because that snowfall has been heavy at points, especially along this kind of I-96 corridor here. It has actually switched over to rainfall for some of these regions, but near Grand Rapids, we were seeing extremely heavy snowfall there in those blues that you can see popping up that eventually switched over to rain. That heaviest region is more over the central regions of the state at this point, but Flint, Detroit, they're not being left out either with this heaviest snowfall. But generally, all of these regions, I sometimes just draw this wrong. All these regions, for the most part, have seen very heavy snowfall taking place. There's still a lot to come for Detroit unless they start really mixing in. But in areas north of Detroit especially, we do see some heavy snowfall taking place still in these regions that need to be watched. Let's see if there's anything else to talk about. I mean, you can generally tell there is a cold front here and that there is Arctic air behind this. Cold front's obviously located about like this, and it is pushing its way through. So expect colder temperatures behind that. Matter of fact, we can actually zoom in and switch on those temperatures. Let's see if I can get that on screen. It sometimes takes a minute to load, but we can see these pop up on screen here. I guess it's pretty cold everywhere, but we are seeing pretty cold conditions behind this. I need to wait for that to load back in. So it's a pretty weak cold front. I mean, we are seeing some upper 30s I mean, there's not too big of a difference. So this isn't a huge contrast actually with this cold front, but generally you can expect some more cold air behind this than in front of it, but it doesn't seem to be that drastic of a difference out ahead of it or behind it. Actually, a little bit surprised by that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on, and we're finally going to talk about that modeled guidance for the 2 storms that we have in the upcoming pattern. All right, now here we are taking a look at that European model. We're going to get started with this one. And this is our big old system up there that you can see taking place. Now, what we're going to see over time is this will become a little bit more of a potent cold front as I was looking at the models. By the time this is happening, we can see that a trough is pushing down this way. So that is when that cold air will really take place. And then it will start to fill in behind this. So it is going to be slow up until then. Don't expect too much of a difference in temperatures, but it is kind of on the way. So that storm we've been tracking for a little bit. It does move up into Canada mostly and moves away. What's interesting is this right here is the beginning of our storm that eventually will be right here, believe it or not. And that's what's going to lead towards some potential snowfall in these regions. It's trended a little bit west. We do have more snowfall than showing up on the models now than we expected as of yesterday. So we see that piece of energy is basically going to do this and then shove up like this. So let's watch that play out. We see that energy really transfer up there. And what's interesting is, again, my region kind of gets, I don't even know what you would call it. I mean, it really just gets dry slotted in here. These areas, I mean, the storm is here, snow is here. And then there's nothing in between, so it is kind of aggravating when the snow could just be a little bit further southeast, closer to that storm. But you know what? Everybody deserves their fair share of snowfall, and the snow does eventually move down into southeastern Virginia at a certain point there. But really, the highlight on this model, the European model, is going to be for this region as far as snowfall is concerned. So we see this storm move up, very, very minor, but we do see a bit of snowfall take place, and then very cold air behind it. So let's take a look at that total snowfall on this model. We will compare to a couple other models in just a second. So anywhere in the grays, we have a dusting, maybe a tiny bit more taking place. Some of these darker ones might be about an inch. And then in the blues, we have about 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. So we see some of that going on for southern Jersey there, southeastern Massachusetts, a little bit of Delaware and Maryland, some of the Delmarva basically. And then we see some of these more mountainous regions of Virginia seeing some snowfall as far as 2 to 6 inches are concerned. And then we see the mountains of West Virginia as well, but nothing exceeding those amounts. Now, as we move on to the NAM model, I do have to zoom into the east here on this one as well. We can see this one has a lot more. Even down here, we have about 1 inch to 2 inches in some of these darker regions in here. But definitely 2 to 6 here in all of these blue regions. So all of these blue regions, 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. And then we have 6 to 10 here in some of these purples. So much more snowfall there. It has this kind of bullseye of 6 to 10 in these pink regions, purple regions. For a lot of Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New England. Do I think it's the most likely scenario? Not really. I don't think it's the most likely scenario. That's a little bit bullish for sure on the snowfall amounts. Then we have the RGEM model, which is a little bit higher resolution as well. And we do have 2 to 6 inches of snowfall for a lot of these regions as well. Let me get my drawer back on screen. 2 to 6 also in this region. So if I keep that on screen, let's compare. So it's a little bit further north than the NAM model here, as you can see. A little bit more spread out with those higher amounts. And it definitely doesn't have that bullseye of 6 to 10 inches. So we mostly see 2 to 4 inches of snowfall, maybe 2 to 6 in a lot of the blue regions. But regardless, some sort of snowfall, but very minor, like I mentioned before. Okay, let's go back to a national view. And let's move back to our precipitation type. That was the 6Z, so we need to move back to the 0Z. What we see happen after that storm moves through is we eventually see a trough and then a ridge like this. So we're seeing something of this take place. And really it's this storm system here that you can see taking place that is really dragging it down. This is our monster storm that we're going to be taking a look at because this one is really going to drop into the 980s, which is a very strong storm. We can see that what it's going to do is it's basically going to dive down and then move up like this. So that's also what the jet stream is going to look like, and that's going to leave very warm temperatures underneath here taking place, and also some severe weather. I'm going to draw in red the areas that we're watching for severe weather at this point, but I think as far as thunderstorms are concerned, I think this is the area that generally could see their first thunderstorms, and in purple I'll draw the more severe regions. that I expect to potentially see some severe weather. So it could be in here. Could be smaller, could be a little bit larger than that, but that is what we're watching at this point, based on the surface pattern that we're going to see take place. So that storm dives down, like I mentioned, and then this is really right in here is when we could see some severe weather take place in here. Watch this area right here. You're going to see as this low pressure system is approaching with some colder air, so that's going to be approaching from the west. We're going to see this right up into here. We're going to see really humid and stormy weather move up from the Gulf into Texas and Oklahoma. I definitely expect there could be some severe weather during that first initial period. There is some Cape that doesn't look too bad, but later in the day, we do get those 1,000 plus amounts in a lot of these greens. So that's where we're at, about 700 to 1,000. I've seen less Cape than that cause severe weather. But definitely later on the European model, this is the next day. This is in the Thursday morning. We see about 1,000 plus for over here. So it could be a 2 or 3 day severe weather event. And then also for a bit of the southeast later that day. And then let's see, Friday could be a Florida event. Also some thunderstorms potential up here. But definitely for Florida, we do have potentially into the thousands as well. So it could be a 3 day event with day 1 mostly being here, day 2 mostly being here, and then day 3 mostly being over Florida, maybe Georgia as well overnight. So potential severe weather event that we need to watch closely. This one does have pretty good potential, and these wintertime ones are pretty concerning because usually we're taking a look at more shear, which means more of a tornado risk than other times of year typically. So that's something worth noting as well. We're a little bit long range with this. 150 hours for a severe weather event is definitely pretty long range, but we can tell that there is tons of precipitation for all of these regions over these couple of days if we watch it take place. So there's the first day's event, Oklahoma, Texas. Day 2, we get a ton of precipitation there for Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and then overnight into the next day, we see up and down the East Coast a line of thunderstorms developing through here. This is Friday. Next Friday, so this is very long range, and then Florida is really where we're watching for the highest potential for some of those isolated severe weather impacts to take place. So potential 2 or 3 day event there that we're going to be watching for some severe weather. As far as how bad it will be, we don't know yet. So now back to snowfall, we do expect a lot here for the Rockies, but also on the second aspect of this storm, somewhere up here is going to get a lot of snowfall as well for the plains in the upper Midwest, and that's varying a lot on the models as well. This particularly would be an interesting scenario because we see a lot of snowfall extending behind the low pressure system here for Oklahoma and Kansas, and then a very thin band up there. So here is really where we're watching Kansas, panhandle of Texas, in through western Oklahoma for potentially a lot of snowfall as well, and then that really spreads out more than we saw yesterday. So this could be an even more major snowstorm than we saw the models predicting as of yesterday. Total snowfall on here, and it's probably going to be looking a little bit more major than it was as of yesterday. Again, all of this snowfall is associated with basically this storm. So anywhere from a dusting, if anything, in the grays, 2 to 6 inches in the blues. Purple's going to be 6 to 10. Pinks will be 10 to 20, so we see those up there. And then this pastel region here for the lower peninsula of Michigan is going to be anywhere from 20 to 30 inches of snowfall, maybe even approaching 40 or more inches of snowfall. So a ton of snowfall for a lot of these regions. Also 20 inches plus for this little spot in Oklahoma as well. That seems a little bit aggressive for me, but we will see what ends up happening. This could shift north, this could shift south, but it is shifting in a more and more major direction. So that's worth noting that the plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes could be expecting a major snowstorm. Also the Rockies overall, they haven't seen as much lately either. Let's move to the total snowfall here on our GFS model as well and see how much agreement we have. Yeah, so the GFS has trended towards a more major snowstorm as well down here. But what's interesting is it has obviously way less. I'm talking 0. So we're trending in a kind of bad direction here for Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas because we have one model showing like 10 to 20 inches plus for that region, and then we have another one showing nothing. So that's always a difficult place to be. We will continue to track this for you guys, but for now, that is that is definitely something that's making it more difficult. And then as we move on to the Canadian model here as well, let's load this one in. Let's get our Snowstorm here. So this one isn't much further south, but a little bit less major. So you can tell there's definitely some different solutions on the table right now. The GFS model and the European model definitely agree for the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, which is good to see. But the difference is that for the more central United States, there's not really good agreement there. Even on this model, we have a little bit of some differences all over the place. So there's still some things we really need to work out, but the European model and the GFS model are both trending in a more major direction, which is going to be something that we need to pay attention to moving forward if we will continue to see those very, very bullish model runs that are showing tons of snowfall, or if it's going to kind of settle down over time. And of course, if you guys subscribe and keep up to date with the daily uploads, I will for sure be updating you guys daily on this storm up until when it happens. And I can't wait to track this one and end up seeing what happens with this one for you guys. Anyway, for today's confidence tab, we're at a 4 out of 6 still. Obviously, there's not really a ton of agreement. The only thing they agree on is intensity, really. So we're not really close to moving up to a 5 out of 6 yet. So we're sticking with a 4 out of 6. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, do you think this upcoming major snowstorm will end up being the most major for the remainder of the winter, or do you think we will see another even more major snowstorm? And by the major upcoming snowstorm, I am referring to that one in the central United States, by the way. And James Marr said, I think it will be the most major snowstorm for the remainder of the month, but we will get an even larger one in March. And that's a bold prediction right there, but I like it. For today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovin Nagel, Elizabeth Pan, Mandy Birchfield, Patrick Strickland, Dave Scott, and Donna Carnes as well. I would also like to thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Kuddle, Lessa Capite, Charles Stinnett, Bill Dallas, Gary's, and John Calisi also. I would also like to thank our channel members, Capite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.